Welcome back to Season 5 of Porcelain Peak, your favorite strange and scary podcast featuring news, trivia, and main discussions into the odd and unusual. I'm your host with the most, Anthony. I'm joined by Jennifer Tilley, a.k.a. John.
I'm oddly fine with this one.
And the other Anthony.
Hi.
How you guys doing?
The rasp kind of helps.
Great.
Yeah, that actually works
voice.
beautifully, and I've never been more attracted to you, John. Also, Tone, beautiful intro.
Thank you. I'm going to keep going with it since we're on
Yeah.
the roll. Here's what we're doing this week. For our Chop Talk, we are going to give you some news about an update to the Friday the 13th franchise. I got a recommendation, maybe a little bit more. Then we're going to play trivia, see if we can break this fucking tie streak we're on, the longest in Porcelain Peak history.
Probably not.
Then for
Probably not.
our main discussion, we are starting off No Nut November with the life and times of one Harry Houdini.
Harold Houdini.
Who may or may not have been a secret agent, but more on that later.
Secret
We'll go ahead
And
and...
infamous
Agent
practicer
man.
of No Nut November.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So
Yeah.
more on that later. We'll go ahead and get started with our first segment, Chop Talk.
Why don't you take an axe and chop it open?
Fellas, all right. We're chopping, we're talking.
We
John,
are.
Anthony, how are you guys? I feel like... Did we record on a Wednesday last week, or was that Monday last week?
I know we
So
recorded.
we went Monday to Friday? That's rough.
Yes, it was.
Feels like it's been forever. Forever, guys.
Yeah, I mean, obviously part of that reason is because we were supposed to record on Wednesday, but I was under the weather. I'm on the uptick from that, so I have a little sexy rasp.
Yeah, and hence the Jennifer Tilley mention, but also
Yeah.
because in the creep cult. Can we do that? Could that be our creep cult symbol?
Yeah, I would stay away from the gang signs.
Is that what that is?
Yeah,
Just in case.
just trying to.
Creep cult?
Here's the steeple.
Yeah.
Pretty
Open
much.
the doors, look at all the people.
Anyway, on the creep cult, we're talking about season 2 of Chucky, so we just started that.
Yeah, so.
But John, you're better, yeah?
For the most part, yeah. Like
Right
I said,
on.
voice is a little iffy. So I got a little latent congestion, but
Yeah, you're getting a two-tone turn on. That's what's happening with that thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, John, you want to go into explicit detail for the listeners as to exactly why your throat is so rough and raspy? Were you maybe stretching it beyond its natural bounds? Or...
God.
Hey, I asked for it, and you delivered, and it was a little bit disgusting.
Everything you wanted?
Yeah, but
I'm like,
Post-Halloween, we all feeling good?
I'm like Uber Eats over here. I'm always delivering.
Nobody uses Uber Eats.
I've been seeing like a really funny trend of people ordering stuff from Walmart through like the Walmart delivery service,
Right on.
and them substituting just like the wildest shit.
The one I saw today was they asked to substitute for mushrooms
For tampons. Yeah, this one I sent to my sisters. They
it
tried
like
to
the
order
same shape?
tampons, and it was like, yeah, we replaced with white mushrooms. And then I saw one today where this person was trying to order like personal lubricant, like KY jelly, and it replaced it with Drano.
Oh my god!
Good job, Walmart.
Can the Walmart get in trouble for that?
They're like, your no nut November will be forever.
I know, you're dead.
Well, once they leave it at the door, they're like, you do whatever you want with that Drano. I'm not in charge of your life.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Is it just something in the algorithm?
I think it's just lazy delivery people who are just like, this works as a substitute.
Yeah. Anyway, some news, yeah?
Some news, yeah.
Friday the 13th?
So, yeah, that's the biggest news. So, we definitely want to start with that. So, we got...
A24?
A24.
And Peacock.
And Peacock. And Brian Fuller,
Yep.
who people probably know from Hannibal
Daisies?
and Pushing Daisies, two fan favorite shows that I've not seen all of, but
And I
I've seen
think-
parts of.
Dead Like Me?
Think so.
Pretty sure.
Maybe. Yeah, so those three people A24 is my favorite person.
Peacock is also my favorite person.
Yeah, so we're getting a prequel Friday the 13th series called tentatively Crystal Lake. Originally, I was under the impression, and most people were under the impression, that the reason it was a prequel series was because there was some weird rights issue where they were not allowed to use the adult Jason. Apparently, that's not the case.
That was
and-
the legal battle for a long time between the two sides. I don't remember exactly who it was. Cunningham and somebody else, right? Where it was like you can have the Friday the 13th and then we have Jason.
Yeah, which is why you have like Jason Goes to Hell instead the final Friday instead of being or Jason X.
Yeah, exactly.
Freddy versus Jason, as they were like, we can't use the Friday the 13th.
Yeah, not Freddy versus Friday the 13th.
Yeah. So I'm excited about this. I think it's very strange that A24 is going into something like this.
Is that not the case, though?
So yeah, apparently that's not the case, and that everybody who is involved with the project are all of the correct people who have the rights to the entirety of the Friday the 13th franchise.
Oh, it's all settled now.
So yeah, it looks like everyone who's involved with this is all in agreement that they can use whatever Friday the 13th elements they want.
Interesting.
But if it is a prequel series, I mean, it makes me wonder how much adult Jason we would get anyway. If this is going to be some sort of like Castle Rock, Annie Wilkes type thing where we're showing the origin of Pamela Voorhees being a crazy murder person.
Is that what it might be? Or we don't know.
No clue.
It's a possibility.
Pretty much everything that I've said is everything that we know.
So maybe it'll be Jason's first summer at summer camp. So maybe the first season will be how Jason dies. Second season will be Pamela's killing spree. And then maybe third will be Jason like emerging.
Yeah, it would be interesting also to see them try to explain like the whole, okay, so if he survived his drowning, where was he for like 20 years or whatever? Like he's hiding out in the woods, I guess.
He's just going like this under the water.
But like not exactly. He's like the Avatar, like just harnessing all of his different abilities so he can come
he
out
learned
and
the
strike
survival
people
skills
down.
at camp before his drowning and really used those and wore overalls.
Yeah. I've kind of had a hankering to rewatch the Friday the 13th movies recently. So now with this news having come out, I think I might go through and watch a couple of them. At least Jason Lives.
Maybe the Jarvis trilogy.
Yeah.
Is
it Jarvis?
4 through 3?
Yeah.
Or 4 through 6?
Tommy Jarvis.
Strike that, reverse the order.
You got it.
Yeah, so that's the biggest news from the week. We don't have a ton of other news. The main thing that I wanted to mention that I had sent to you guys was that Danny Boyle has teased the fact that Alex Garland does have a completed script for 28 months later. Mm-hmm. Right? 28 months.
You're right. At this point, it could be 28 years, though. It's been almost long enough.
And that's what Cillian Murphy said. So he expressed that he would be interested in returning. He said the only problem is that he's now like 20 years older. So he's like, the movie would obviously not be 28 months after the original incidents of the first movie.
I've seen a Cillian Murphy. He doesn't look that old.
He doesn't look any different than he did really 20 years ago. He is a beautiful, beautiful Irish man. So yeah, I'm very excited about this. I don't know if it'll actually happen, but Danny Boyle was saying like, obviously with the state of the world right now, and in the past couple of years, it seems like a pretty prescient time to be putting out a movie like this.
I sent it to one of my friends, and they were like, "You think that's legit?" And I was like, "Do I think that Alex Garland wrote a script that Danny Boyle knows about it, and that Cillian Murphy may have been like, yeah, I would do it? Yes." But do I think that it's actually going to happen? You never fucking know with these things.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see Alex Garland like return to something like that, though. Did he? I don't think he wrote 28 Weeks, did he? Or did he write both?
I thought
no,
he did.
He did. He wrote and produced 28 Weeks.
Okay. I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but I hear a lot of people talk about them as being both really good.
Different ways, but yeah.
It feels like
I just don't
28
like
Weeks is
looking
a little more like American sensibilities because it basically stars Jeremy Renner.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't like looking at Jeremy Renner, so it makes it hard for me to want to go watch that movie.
He's not terrible in that movie.
No offense to Jeremy Renner, who is a Modesto native.
He is a Modesto native.
He also makes some terrible music,
but he brought his app back just when the world needed it.
App?
Yeah, so he was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna have an Instagram account or a Twitter account. I'm going to make the Jeremy Renner official app where you can go and
it's basically like him having an
Instagram
Instagram page that you can follow as an app.
Yeah, it's the Jeremy Renner app.
Seems smart.
Check it out. Highly recommend it. I've never been on it. I wouldn't download it, but
well, I wanted to make a recommendation.
Okay,
you and I talked about it.
I wasn't done with news, but that's cool.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, baby.
The only other little thing that I wanted to mention is that Shelley Duvall is coming back to the horror cinema world after 20 years of not being in a movie.
Wow.
If you guys are...
She hasn't been in a movie in 20 years?
She she hasn't really... She's basically like... She disappeared into her hometown and like became kind of a recluse.
Wow.
Probably because people have been calling her a Muppet for so long.
I think you, John. I think you're the one who's been calling her that. She is coming back to a horror movie, which is a big deal, alongside, of all people, another forgotten face, Edward Furlong. There.
I thought he died.
I mean, the CG child double of him did in that Terminator movie, but
that
he
Terminator
didn't
movie that was not good enough to save any of the franchise at all.
Yeah, he died when he jumped into that lobster tank to try to save all the lobsters, and they just devoured him. Just pulled him apart.
Oh, fuck.
There was one last piece of news as well. Sandman got renewed for season 2.
Yeah,
That's true, yeah, but...
it's a werewolf movie.
Okay.
That's the news. So I was excited because, not only is it... Yeah. a werewolf movie.
Kit Kat.
Yeah, exactly. That was a real Kit Kat moment. But yeah, it's a werewolf movie with Shelley Duvall and Edward Furlong. Don't know anything else besides that. There's a teaser online. I think it's called like Wolf 2 Electric Furgaloo.
Harry Furgaloo. Yeah. The Avatar 2 trailer also released.
Yeah, it did. The Way of Water.
There we go. And it was pretty cool. I check it out. I know it's a little bit outside the normal. Yeah, but it's alien.
That's sci-fi.
It's definitely sci-fi.
Science fiction.
It's more sci-fi
Science
than
fact,
things
if
that
you're-
I think are sci-fi.
That's true. That's very true.
Science fact if you're one of those people that like
Dude.
dress as Navis and thought they were Navis.
Speaking of that, did you guys hear what NASA did recently? They fucking shot a spacecraft at an asteroid to see if they could change its trajectory so that in case in like a apocalyptic event were to happen or whatever, they could test it out to see if they could do it. I was like, they watch too many fucking movies that
They
NASA.
out here
And I was
watching
like,
Bruce Willis in
that's
Armageddon.
fucking crazy. So they
Yeah.
did it and it changed the trajectory like a few degrees, and I was like, that's nuts. Like
I
we
thought you were
are
gonna-
turning science fiction into science fact.
Yeah, I was imagining that it was going to be like a fly into one of those insect zappers where it just fly, but just like just do nothing. It just do nothing to the asteroid.
I heard they also got crazy pictures of the pillars of life
Ooh.
that are supposed to be like
The,
fucking
the,
crazy.
the pictures of space that have come out in the last like year because of the new James Webb or
Yeah.
the new one or whatever telescope are fucking amazing.
I'm still going to call it Hubble.
There's probably a lot of people who would be really upset about it, but I'm not one of them.
How dare you?
I don't know who it is. So
Not
it's just
this house,
easier,
dude. That's
it's
a new
easier to
rule.
say
It just
Hubble.
makes me very happy that NASA is still doing cool space shit, while meanwhile Mars pioneer Elon Musk just blew like $45 billion on buying Twitter. And
So
running it
people
into
could
the
say
ground.
racial slurs on Twitter, which makes me very upset.
Yeah, people just it's Elon Musk. Whole different conversation.
People
Anyway,
fucking
Rex?
suck.
Recommendation?
You want to
Yeah.
recommend something?
Elvira's Haunted Hills.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that for a second? John, watch it. You'll love it.
Did you watch
is-
it on its own, or did you watch it with the Joe Bob?
I watched it on. I didn't have 12 hours to
I know that's always the
to sit and watch a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. I was having that like, fuck. It's almost Halloween, and I haven't done enough Halloween shit. I'm just gonna watch all 4 hours of Joe Bob's like Halloween hangout thing or whatever. So I watched that and Popcorn with his like
Oh, okay.
commentary.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah, I mean, this movie was made recently, but it feels like it's from the 80s or 90s. It's very campy intentionally. I was telling you off mic that it feels like an exception to the rule that you can't set out to make a cult classic. It feels like they set out to make one, and to me, they succeeded. Like, this movie is rad. It's funny as fuck. It's Elvira in like the 1800s, I think, right? But
Yeah, and
it's-
they actually went to Romania and filmed it.
Oh, really?
Like,
Yeah.
So,
But she is just Elvira now, so she still says shit that's current affairs.
yeah, she's
or
playing the
whatever.
same
Yeah.
character, but just in a different time period. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great, and it's like Price Corman-esque with these beautiful sets, but just kind of a spoof, and it works.
Yeah, to me it felt like a blend of some Hammer horror influences, obviously the Corman and Price Poe influences.
right. It
The
starts
movie
with
is
her getting bricked.
whoa. And that's why we recommend it.
Getting trapped in a brick wall. Walden. What do you call it?
She's getting cask of Amontillado or whatever.
I knew as soon as the words came out.
But to put it simply,
Start calling that cask of the Montellado.
yeah, she gets
Anyway.
she gets bricked. But and then on top of all of that, it's got the Abbott and Costello kind of flavor because she is, playing a comedy character in the middle of all these hijinks. But yeah, I thought all the performances were hilarious. The bit about the Italian hunk that was poorly dubbed over,
Yeah, so good.
so fucking funny. There's a bit where she's got the whole dance routine, and then she like picks up the one chick and starts swinging her around, and she just turns into a dummy that she's swinging around, and she throws her around the room.
Yeah, like they set out to make it just a goofy movie.
Lots of goofy tit jokes and classic Elvira stuff. I love Cassandra Peterson and the Elvira character, so it was cool to see on the Joe Bob her come onto the episode, and it was really awesome to see because Darcy is a massive fan, and you can definitely see the similarities in gorgeous horror personality people, and so she was like basically fawning over her, she was like, I own so much Elvira stuff, and she told. I mean, I know you read some of, not all of her.
Oh, I read the whole thing.
Yeah, her autobiography.
I highly recommend it. It's fantastic. She had a crazy fucking life, and it's still going, so she could probably write another fucking book.
Yeah, and she was saying that this movie, they had to, her and her husband at the time had to sell their apartment and put a mortgage on their home or something. So and
second mortgage
on the home, so that, and basically they just, and the movie made like no money. But one of the actors in it did end up passing away from AIDS shortly after the movie was filmed, and they did a bunch of AIDS charity screenings of this movie when it first came out and raised a bunch of money for charity. So doing some good in the world, and it's just like the first one, has a big cult following. So but yeah, if you've only checked out the first one, which I actually haven't seen,
Mistress of the Dark.
Yeah,
I've seen little bits maybe.
Yeah, I've seen clips.
Yeah, this one's a lot goofier, which worked for me.
I thought so too.
Yeah,
it was awesome. Yeah, highly recommend it.
I will definitely have to check it out.
You would like it. It might be something you can watch with Miss Jig, because it's not like
it's horror. Yeah, it's the campy parts.
Yeah.
She enjoys watching people get.
Yeah, I was gonna say just tell her hey, you want to watch this lady get bricked?
Fuck you guys.
Oh, holy shit.
Man. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else that we want to talk about?
No, I think you basically almost killed John in that segment, so we should probably move on to the next one before.
Sounds good.
We put that out
If
of
there's any other
misery.
news you want to share, go ahead and do that over on Instagram, and we'll go ahead and get started with that trivia.
That Christmas house of wax, the fog, piranha. It's one of those, right? Right?
All right, Anthony, kick us off with trivia with a trivia tune.
All right, I'm all bricked up and ready to go.
Oh, God.
Your trivia song this week.
Trivia tune.
Your trivia tune this week. Your trivia tone this week is.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Oh, God. You just ruined it, John. I was all bricked up and ready to go. And you just had to.
I fucking hate you guys.
And you just had to explode. just terrible.
Premature.
Dude, if I had a nickel.
Your trivia tune this week is. Trivia, 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 trivia.
Is it Sweet Home Alabama?
Oh my God, that's
it is
too good.
indeed Sweet Home Alabama.
We went to a corn maze over the weekend, and we went on this hayride, but they only, I guess, got licensed to part of that song. You can play like 15 seconds. Or
God.
So it's just a bum, bum,
Do you remember? Was it
dude.
hit clips? The things that you would put in the little machine and it would only play like 30 seconds?
Exactly, dude. It was exactly like that.
Dude, I used to listen to 30 seconds of You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog just like over and over again.
Bam, bam, Leroy, bro.
But yeah, like it followed us all night because when we first got there, like the cover band started playing. And I was like, oh, it was only a matter of time before the cover band starts playing Sweet Home Alabama. And then, yeah, it must be that corn mazes.
You're like, oh, we heard them on a delay all night. It's like,
Sweet Home California.
All right. Well, we're all tied up again. This is our whatever streak of being tied.
6.
Yeah, so we are going to do 2 rounds of Q&A horror movie trivia and then 4 rounds of Name That Movie.
Movie.
John, I got a tough one for you out the gate, bud. Do you want a tough one first or an easy one first?
Let's open up with
Kinda
a tough
warm you
one
up.
so I feel bad about it.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to read to John. John's going to read to Anthony. Anthony will read back to me. John, your first question is, in which 1965 movie are 5 horror stories linked by the mysterious Dr. Schreck, played by Peter Cushing? You know this one?
We have not watched
Sounds
it,
familiar.
but it's been a question on a different trivia game.
I feel like this is the
Dr.
hardest.
Shrek, is that the one where he's like, get out of my swamp?
No, we make that joke every time we have to talk about Max Shrek or Count Orlok.
Or Shrek, the ogre.
or onions.
Oh shit! What is this movie? Because it was it's not like the first instance of an anthology movie, but it's like one of like the earlier ones.
I see.
The Bible.
Job.
The Bible's my favorite anthology.
I'm going to break the tie streak, and I'm going to say The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. Because I have no idea.
You're honestly on the right
not
track.
Super far out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Dr. Terror's House of Horror.
Okay.
So
I've definitely heard of it. We've never
yeah,
covered
that
it,
dude.
though.
I don't think any of us would have gotten that.
It's Bob Loblaw's Lob
Loblog.
Log.
Tough break, bud. But I think the rest of these will be cake for you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're just gonna nail them. So
What kind of cake? What flavor?
it's a Chirpumble.
Oop.
You know that?
I don't know, but I hear it's Jennifer Tilly's favorite.
You guys know what a Chirpumble is?
Nope.
It's like a turducken of desserts.
A chirpumple?
Yeah,
It's a churro?
so it's a cherry pie baked into a cake,
Okay.
a pumpkin pie baked into a cake, and a apple pie baked into a cake, and then those are stacked on top of each other like frosted.
Only someone as demented as you would know that something like that exists.
It's the turducken of desserts, fellas.
You should then deep fry the whole thing.
Don't be disgusting.
Don't be delicious, John.
Don't be ridiculous, John. It's impossible and improbable.
You're writing a note like, gonna try to deep fry the kerfuffle. Or whatever it's called.
Anthony, which 1954 creature feature stars an aquatic monster nicknamed Terry Gilman?
I would absolutely love it if the card actually said Terry Gilman.
It
But
does say the Gilman.
the Gilman, yeah. That is going to be the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Nice. On the board.
Tone, which 2017 movie involves Daniel Kaluuya discovering a disturbing secret when he visits his girlfriend's very white parents, who would have voted for Obama a third time?
Let me think about it.
I love how you're literally just looking at him.
Get out.
It is indeed Get Out.
Ooh, on
I'm
the
going to
board.
stay right where I am, though.
All right. We'll get started with round 2 here. Anthony and I are tied. John, for your on the board question, which 1968 zombie movie, do you need more? Kickstarted the career of George A. Romero.
Not to be confused with George B. Romero.
Yeah.
And that'll be Night of the Leaving of the Dead.
When I first read the card, I thought it ended with the career of George, because then it says A.
Oh, a Romero.
It's like, that's a weird answer.
That
Yes,
was something
Night of
else
the Living Dead.
I was going to mention in news, because we just talked about the remake. There is
yes.
another remake in the works for Night of the Living Dead.
Was another remake that happened in the 2000s. It's apparently dog shit.
I looked up this because I was curious. Apparently, there's like 30 remakes of this movie because of the licensing. And
Sorry about the burps, guys.
Yeah, but
this just gets
only-
me all hot and bothered.
only a few like that are even worth talking about. And the only one really worth mentioning that I've read is Savini's. That's like the consensus. Is like, if you want to check out Savini's, that's cool, but all the other ones are just trash.
Yeah.
But
Crazy.
yeah, this one is by someone that did The Nanny.
Which I hadn't heard of, so I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, they want to just start a new franchise of Living Dead movies. But it's from what I saw, his son and his family are like involved. The estate's involved.
Yeah. So that's cool.
Interessante. I have
Yeah.
a question for you, though,
Oh, okay.
that I desperately need an answer for.
Oh, fuck. You got me with my own bit.
Bit stealer, dude. Right there.
Jack that shit.
Hey, right there, Robert Houdin.
You bricked up beats. Bit stealer.
Bricked up bit stealer.
Which beautiful son of a bitch directed the 2009 horror film Drag Me to Hell?
To hell. That's going to be Sam Raimi.
Sam Raimi.
Gonna be
Ray
Ray May.
With Justin Long, who I just saw last night in a little feature called Barbarian.
Oh, did you watch it again?
Barbarian.
How'd you
Yeah.
like it second time?
About as much as I did the first time.
Right on, right on.
But I wanted to show it to Adrian because it's very twisty and turny. And she had about the reaction I thought she would, which was, what the fuck?
It is a very what the fuck, malignant.
We laughed a lot, though. Like, I was very happy that, like, pretty much all of the Justin Long, like, he's a piece of garbage in that movie, but, like, all of his funny bits are really fucking funny.
Yeah.
Like, the tape measure stuff, we were, like, as soon as he took out the tape measure, she started busting up laughing, and I was like, yeah, it's so fucking funny, and he just goes on so long. Like, can you account creepy dungeon as extra square footage? Yeah, Tone, I have a question. I don't really need an answer though. Which movie in the Friday the 13th franchise is set in space?
Oh, for real?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jason X.
It is indeed Jason X. I watched that movie the other night also.
What did I inspire with my costume?
Probably.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, probably.
All right. Who?
That movie really blows its load in the very beginning with the
I think we've had
the
did
nitro.
these Look
Yeah.
familiar at all to you? I mean, we'll do them because we gotta have stuff to fill out the rounds. But
I can't remember. Let's just do it.
all right. Well, Anthony and I are still tied at 2. John's got the 1, and we're gonna move into name that movie. How this plays is we're trying to get the other person to guess a movie. There are forbidden words that we cannot say, so we're gonna try to say 3 other words to get them to guess that movie. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sigourney.
What Sigourney could he possibly be talking about?
Extraterrestrial.
Is that a hyphen?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
My friends and I would have killed E.T. with hammers. I can tell you that much.
And 1. Just so we're clear.
Yeah. That's going to be an Alien.
Yes, that is correct. Good job, buddy. My forbidden words were Ripley, Chestburster, and Space.
Giger.
Giger. Anthony, your words are so cool, Brewster.
Oh, beautiful.
It is indeed Fright Night, Vampire, Teen, and Host were the words that I could not
said that
say.
to one of my friends the other day. I was like, "You're so cool." And they're like, "Are you making fun of me?" And I was like, "No, it's from. We can't be friends anymore, basically."
But in Fright Night, I think he is making fun of
Yeah.
Brewster when he says it. So,
100% he is.
yeah, so it was like a deep cut insult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
This one's going to be tough. Let's see. Fuck. Without being able to say. Okay. I'll say Down Under.
Okay, hyphenated. Doing a lot of the hyphenated ones, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Down Under Killer. That's really all I can think about without using the words that are on here.
What is that movie called?
Come on, you got this.
Is it Wolf Creek?
It is Wolf Creek.
Okay.
I couldn't say Australia. I couldn't say tourist, and I couldn't say murder. Which is that's the movie. It's the
Yeah.
Australian tourist murder movie.
All right. Anthony and I tied at 3. Johnson at 2. Moving to the next round and name that movie. John, you have Sorority,
House.
Slasher, and Statue. Or figurine. I'll say figurine.
Are you perchance looking for Black Christmas?
Yes, that's correct. I
I'm
couldn't remember if
guessing-
it was a horse or a unicorn.
It is a unicorn, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because
I
she
was
gets
gonna say
stabbed,
unicorn,
stabbed with the horn.
but then I always go Blade
Runner, yeah.
So I never. Anyway, yeah, you got there. Whatever.
Too many unicorns in movies where they don't belong.
Anywhere.
I thought we were done with unicorns after The Last Unicorn.
What is that?
It's an animated movie about the last unicorn.
How Noah left him behind. That piece of shit.
George. Ghouls.
Evening.
We'll go with.
Oh, maybe not evening.
We'll go with purchases.
Not evening. Don't think about evening. I fucked you up. Don't think about that.
That'd be a neat like a stage name. I'm George Ghouls.
George Gould.
Yeah, call me George Ghouls.
It's like David Pumpkins.
Call me Robert Goulet. Is this Dawn of the Dead?
It is indeed Dawn of the Dead. Nice. I wanted to say consumerism, and then I forgot midway through speaking.
Oh, what were my shits?
Purchases.
Slasher, students, and Santa.
Yeah, Zombie Romero shopping mall.
All right, Tone, I think you're going to get this in one word.
Okay.
And that word is Choppa. Get to.
All right, I'm going to say... I want to get the name right. Right?
Oh, yeah. You got to be careful.
Oh, I don't know if...
Has it been too long since we did these movies? Can't remember which one has the article on it.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Predator.
There you
Ooh, you nailed it.
Okay.
go. Ooh,
The
sorry.
Predator.
It's Predator.
Predator.
Yeah, The Predator is the Shane Black one. But I
Okay.
couldn't say Alien, Jungle, or Invisible.
Right on. That makes sense.
And it's the Invisible Jungle Alien movie.
I
know, right?
You got it. All right. Cool. Anything I got 4? Right?
Mm-hmm.
John, you're at 3? Seems right. Okay.
Yeah.
Your next set of words here are...
I thought you were just saying the name of the movie. You're next.
You're next. Crocodile. Flood. And house.
That's what I thought it was.
Is it Crawl?
That is correct. Yes, I could not say alligator, storm, or basement. So I had to get you there. He nailed it though.
Crawl was a surprisingly decent movie.
Yeah, I saw it alone in the movie theater. I had a good time. Do you know that? What?
Yeah.
Did you go with me?
I don't know. I didn't see it in theaters. Did I go with you? Did we see it together?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Wow.
It was one of the first movies that we went back to the theaters for, and that's the reason why you were alone, because no one was going to the theater at that time.
Yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
Thanks for inviting me, guys. It's hella rude.
I think we all individually saw Underwater.
Was that in theaters?
So
Yeah.
that was one of the... Yeah, I saw it in theaters.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it was spooky because
I saw it underwater.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
I saw it while sitting next to Kristen Stewart.
Damn, dude, you're such a story topper though. You ever notice that?
You ever reflect on yourself and think?
I need
I also have a friend who's a story topper.
I need some Aussies thongs.
Okay. Dude, we definitely had this before. Okay.
Did I get it last time?
Yeah.
I'm gonna do...
Foreign.
Okay.
Okay. Christmas.
Yeah. And snow? Maybe? Packages.
There we go. That's fine with me.
Foreign
Christmas
packages?
Yeah. Didn't mean to make it a sentence, but...
Foreign Christmas packages. Is this is it Rare Exports?
It is Rare Exports.
I haven't seen that movie since I think we watched it in
Turlock.
Turlock
Yeah,
when we
me
used to
either.
live together. Tone, your film is about the Warrens.
Okay.
House.
Okay.
Warren's house.
You gotta give me something more specific than that. That's like every Warren movie.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think of something that's specific.
Why is it always about the war ends and not about the peace? You know what I'm saying?
I'll just say Warren's house. Clap.
Okay. The Conjuring.
It is indeed The Conjuring,
The calm,
which I rewatched on Halloween night.
And how was that for you?
It's good. It's a good ass movie. I like The Conjuring. It's fun.
still hold up.
All right. Last round here. Anthony and I are at 5. John's sitting at 4. Your final question, John. I'm going to say Pamela and Crystal Lake.
Pamela.
So we're gonna go with Friday the 13th.
That is correct. I could not say Jason, Mother, or Camp.
I'm sorry. That's the wrong answer.
fun. Oh, how do I want to go about this one?
What do you got now?
I'm just trying to figure out how I want to go about it.
Okay. How about... Oh, I was going to say that.
Yeah, those are a couple of those are making my life difficult, but I think I'll get there.
Actors or actresses?
So while they're figuring this out, audience, I watched All Quiet on the Western Front the other day on Netflix, the World War I movie, and don't pay attention to me while I'm talking about this. This is for the audience.
I'm just waiting for you to finish. So.
Okay, and I was just kind of wondering, do you think that there were more miles of trenches built in World War I, or more miles of trenches built to film World War I movies?
The second one.
Think on that.
Deep.
Yeah.
Deep.
It was a good movie, too. Really depressing.
Yeah.
War is bad. Go ahead, John.
All right. 90s slasher, and we'll go with Hewitt.
90s slasher. Hewitt?
Yes.
That's what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is it I Know What You Did Last Summer?
It is I Know What You Did Last Summer.
For whatever reason, when you said Hewitt, I thought like Hewlett, which I think is the last name of Leatherface's family it's something like Hewlett or Hewitt or something in the remake ones. I was very confused.
I just meant Jennifer Love, you know what I'm saying?
Ooh, a lot of people wish, huh? I want to get with the Ghost Whisperer.
Right on. Confessions time.
No, that wasn't me. I was doing a voice. I was.
Oh, sure. Okay, I believe you.
That was a message from our favorite listener, George Gould.
George Gould here.
Subscriber on YouTube.
George Goolsley. Tone. Let's see. Words. Contagious. Canada. Imagine that's being announced.
Pontypool.
Yeah, words contagious, Canada. That was the announcement they gave it as Pontypool.
Words don't mean contagious.
When they got that a few weeks
Words
ago,
mean
probably.
Not sick no more.
Yeah, I thought about just saying movie we talked about.
Right on. Well, we tied. That's going to be the end of that. John.
Oh.
I predicted that we were going to break the streak, and
We
we
did.
did.
You
I'm
think
sorry.
that's going to be the end of it?
Okay.
Knife fight. I'm bringing him back.
That's not. So I don't know what we're doing next week for trivia, but we'll figure it out, and we hope that you stay tuned for that.
If you have tied with us on every one of these rounds, we invite you to Pay all of the expenses to fly yourself out here to California, out to where we live, and challenge us to an in-person tiebreaker knife fight.
Right on. You guys do that. Let me know. Don't do it here.
Okay. You don't have to clean up the mess.
I don't want to have to clean up the mess. Yeah, I don't want to be involved. I don't want to lose. Don't want to get stabbed because you got to like be there the whole time. You know what I mean? It just sounds awful. Anyway, if you haven't already, then whatever platform you're on, rate and review and share and subscribe and all that shit. And right now you're going to get some ads. And if you don't get ads, then you're going to get a reminder to join the Creep Cult, which I personally think you should do. And we'll see you after the break.
I've been a member of the Creep Cult for several years now, and I can say that it's deeply enriched my life personally. For just $5 a month, I have become a more enriched and more...
You're doing a voice that we need to blur out your face. Like you're doing a drug deal.
I've become more enriched, and I'm thriving. I'm really thriving.
The voice from The Watcher.
I'm thriving in the Creep Cult / Witness Protection Program.
And next week, we're drinking Kool-Aid.
For whatever reason, I was just picturing you potentially going down the line of being like, I joined the Creep Cult many years ago, and this year I dressed up as a giant worm on Halloween. Hi, I'm Heidi Klum.
I'm Heidi Klum here for just a series of non sequiturs.
Hey, future me, bleep that out. No free ads here.
Especially not for Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds.
What's happening?
I don't know. If
We're spiraling.
Let's play some ads for the people. Give them the ads.
The break, I promise. I need one.
The break that was promised.
Yeah. Can we do a mid-season break? Can we do a quarter-season break?
Wouldn't be the first one.
Join the Creep Cult. $5 a month at patreon.com/Porcelain Peak for exclusive content, merch discounts, and more. Join the Creep Cult. $5 a month at patreon.com/Porcelain Peak for exclusive content, merch discounts, and more.
Hey, you want to see something really scary?
All right, guys, before we start, I came prepared for what we're going to be talking about with a trick. Okay. A magic trick, okay? So
I have one too.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, if you're listening to this...
Mine's real, though.
Okay, well, that's very rude. I spent a long time practicing mine, and I studied Houdini for a solid hour, okay, to really nail this trick. So first, you'll notice nothing up my sleeves. Nothing up my sleeves. All right. Ooh! Whoa! How did he do that?
That's so good for an audio medium.
Yeah, if you guys were listening, you'll have to go check out the YouTube version to see that trick and see how blown the minds were of my co-hosts.
Something's blown.
Yeah.
All right. I have one that's going to work for audio.
Okay.
And I guess video because you can hear it too. So we're going to do this. In your head,
okay.
Think of a single digit number between 1 and 9. Well, between 0 and 10.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But one of the single digits.
Okay, I got one. 24.
No.
Wait, you said between 1 and 9?
Yes.
Okay. 33.
Multiply that number by 9.
Fuck. Math. Let me pick an easier number.
Are you good? You have it?
Yeah.
You multiplied by 9?
Sure.
We have to.
Yeah, no, I got it.
Okay.
Hey, sing the Schoolhouse Rock song, brother.
Okay.
You'll get there.
Okay. If the number is 2 digits, add those two numbers together.
Okay.
So, like, if it was 15, you would add 1 and 5 to be 6. Okay. Do you have your number?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now subtract 5.
Okay.
Okay. Now convert that number to a letter where A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3.
Okay.
Okay.
I got it.
Got it. Now think of a country that starts with that letter.
All right, I got one.
I'm not ready yet.
He's like, fuck, is Michigan a country? Is Mars a country? No, that's a state in the United States. If your listeners can't tell, we're really bad with geometry.
John's thinking.
I just don't want to pick that one because I know that that's going to be the trick.
Well, then just do it. Don't be a fucking
fine.
fuck ass.
Fine.
Okay, now take the last letter of that country and think of an animal that starts with that letter.
Okay. I immediately went to fictional Jurassic Park animal, so I'm going to think of a real
animal.
Animal.
Have you done this before?
It all seems vaguely familiar.
I'm desperately trying to think of an animal that starts with this letter.
Does it have to be like the actual name of the animal, or can it be like the colloquialism of the animal?
The name of the animal. Like,
it's making my life difficult.
This is really tough. I cannot think of an animal that starts with this letter, and
really?
Yeah.
Then we probably failed.
There's one very common one, and
well,
that's
if you have the same.
That's the point. It should be the same.
And it might be different. This is like a general.
Trivia.
Typically, people do this.
General typical people. Do this.
Okay. I got one.
Okay. Now with the last letter of the animal.
Okay.
think of a fruit that starts with that letter.
Okay, I got one.
Oh, God.
Okay.
It's got to be one that's not a fucking thing that you're trying to make me say.
It's just first thing that comes to mind, man. You're overthinking it because you're trying to overthink it.
At this point, you've lost the entire crowd. This magic trick is lost its luster.
Oh, I'm trying to fight it so hard, but I'll pick that one.
All right, so is anybody thinking of an orange kangaroo from Denmark?
Yes.
No, I was.
What'd you get, an iguana from Djibouti?
No, mine was an inchworm.
Okay. Yeah, you fucked up.
From Dubai.
He got Dubai.
Yeah,
See, I did Dubai, which made me have to pick an animal that started with I, which took fucking forever. Can you off the top of your head? Iguana. See, there you go. I knew like once I heard him, I would be like, oh, that's fucking obvious. So I went with inchworm, and then for the fruit, I said mango.
There you go. Yeah. So typically, Denmark.
Yeah, because
you always get to D. The math thing always gets you to 4.
Okay.
Because basically, if you
and
picked
most people
one,
say
like,
Denmark.
if you picked one like I did, 1 times 9 is 9. You're already where you need to be, to where if you subtract 5, you get to D.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying, but it sounds stupid as shit.
But basically, any other multiple of 9, if you multiply 9 by 2, 1 plus 8 is 9. It all works the same way until you get to.
Yeah, so people usually go Denmark.
It's math magical. And Denmark was the first thing I thought of. Yeah. And then in my head, I did the same thing you were doing, which was,
I was like,
that's too obvious.
Yeah.
I was like, there's got to be something in like Africa that starts with a D.
Yeah, so I went Djibouti. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I just went for Djibouti.
Anyway, try that with your friends. This week, we are talking about magic. So when you think magic, there's a few people you think of.
David Copperfield.
Yep. Harry Houdini. Job.
James Blaine.
James Blaine.
Chris Copperfield.
Chris Copperfield. Penn and Teller. And I feel like that's like the top people, right?
Crims,
like if you know more people than that, you probably watch too much shit.
There's that guy who did the Carbonaro effect or whatever.
Yeah.
That show.
Okay.
Him. Yeah. Is it like Magic for Idiots or whatever on Netflix?
Okay.
Mickey,
yeah, but you don't know his name.
Mickey when he stole the wizard's hat and he made all the brooms come to life.
And so we are talking about Houdini. Houdini. He was born Eric Weiss in 1874, which feels like many moons ago.
Oh man, I remember 1874. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
1874. That was a good year.
What a rip-roaring time.
So his name was, like I said, Eric Weiss. His nickname was Eri, which like ERI, which then became Harry.
Yeah, I thought that was super interesting. I didn't know that. Like I was pretty sure I knew his name wasn't Harry Houdini, but I didn't know that it was because Eri for Eric.
Yes, and he idolized another magician called Robert Houdin.
He was mistakenly under the impression that in French, if you add an I to the end of a word, it means like respect to, or like son of, sort of like. Yeah. So he was like, I'm kind of I'm the not predecessor, I'm the follow up to Houdin. I'm
The
Houdini.
progeny.
Turns
of
out he was
Houdini.
wrong about that, but
Right, yeah. So his parents, Cecilia and Samuel, and he was born in Budapest, which is going to come up later. And then they moved to Wisconsin, Appleton, when he was young. My stupid fucking iPad, when I write Apple, changes it to the logo. So I wrote like Appleton. Anyway, his pops came to the.
I mean, usually that's how all life starts.
To be a rabbi. They were Jewish.
Okay.
And his pops couldn't cut it. So he got the axe. And
He couldn't perform the circumcisions, is what you're saying.
Yeah. No,
he
yeah.
couldn't cut it.
But there were 7 kids. So Houdini was one of 6, which is
No wonder he was desperate to
crazy.
escape.
pretty much, yeah. So he
They
went to
were the shackles that held him back for so long.
Yeah, so I mean, I watched a video or a mini series, right? And then I watched a few other videos and listened to some podcasts. And so there are some conflicting accounts of what his relationship was like with his father, but it seems like Houdini became sort of the breadwinner for the family at a young age. And his father, in some accounts, was really encouraging of that. So they had a decent relationship where he was like, yeah, good job, perform your acts, like you're supporting this family. So in the show, but the show also gets other stuff wrong that I've seen now. So I'm like, I don't know how accurate that fucking miniseries is with Adrian Brody.
Yeah, I think more people are familiar with the fact that he had a very, very close relationship with his mother. Like, yeah, he was very close with his mom.
At one point, he promised his father that if anything ever happened to him, that he would take care of his mother, and he held that promise and was like very, very good to his mother.
And then at one point, they bought a hotel, and then his mother died, and then he like assumed her and was like killing people as her on her behalf.
This is the plot of The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
It sure is.
Anyway, Houdini went to Milwaukee and saw a tightrope act and was like, dude, that shit's super dope. I want to be flexible and all crazy.
He was like, damn, that rope is tight.
Yeah, so he actually tried to set up one in his backyard and then busted all his teeth out.
Oh, shit. That's like one of my worst nightmares.
Yeah.
Getting my teeth knocked out.
Yeah, if you dream about it, it means you're having money troubles.
I feel like I should be dreaming about it a lot more often.
He also, when he went to the circus and saw what they were doing, he decided that he was going to start trying to pick locks. So he actually became super good at picking locks at a young age, which becomes prevalent.
A little fucking hoodlum.
As he gets older, yeah.
Houdini them.
So he leaves home at 12, and he's like, I'm out. And apparently he shacked up with some woman, and she like became his surrogate mother, and she took care of him for a long time. And when he got older and more famous and had more money, he would like send her stuff regularly. Like, here's like, thank you for your help when I was younger.
That's that must be nice to get in with Houdini like early on.
Yeah, I knew Houdini when he was still
Don't forget the
When he was
little
still
people
a
Houdini.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he did acrobatic stuff. So
yeah, wasn't he like the flying? Like he had a nickname, like the Great Flying Houdini Man.
Yeah, he went by a lot of names.
Oh, he was Eric, the Prince of the Air.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
before
so
he took
did
the name Houdini.
Did acrobatics. I know there was a lot. I've heard different accounts where he would like do the bending over backward thing and pick up needles in his mouth, like needles and nails. He would like bend over backward and grab them with his mouth, and people were like, "Ooh, that's crazy! You're scary." And then actually something that he developed later into another trick, which we'll talk about in a little bit. The family eventually went to New York, and he started trying to get on the vaudeville circuit and perform magic, and he was actually not really successful at this. Yeah, which is fucking crazy to think about.
So
but he was very like it's like in what I have here, he was very athletic. So I think it's super interesting, like seeing, because now we just always like you think of escape artists and stuff as being a big part of magic, but it seemed more like he failed at the sleight of hand stuff, so he was like, oh well, I'm already great at sports, swimming, boxing, running. He had all this natural athletic talent, so he was like,
he's gonna come up later with some of the stunts he performed, not necessarily magic.
Yeah,
but with his stunts, it was around this time that he read Robert Houdin's book on magic, and so I think that's kind of what got his interest in that. His father died in
He's fragile.
1892.
But by that time, in 1891, he had already teamed up with his friend Jacob Hyman, no jokes, and they started an act called the Brothers Houdini.
Yeah, it sounds like that act was really popping, you know what I'm saying?
And then I think it transitioned to be with his brother, or there was all of them together at some point. I heard different things, where it was like his friend, and then it was his brother.
Yeah, and I think his brother went by
Hardin.
Hardin, and they like...
It was like
Hardin
I thought it was
Houdini or
Dusty.
something? I don't
Dusty?
know.
I don't know.
Dusty Houdini.
Yeah, but I also, again, heard conflicting accounts. So there's a lot of kind of mystery wrapped around Houdini, and we don't know everything for certain. But his brother...
Which makes sense. It's the 1800s.
Yeah.
And they weren't writing about him until he got famous. So.
Right, yeah. His brother, I think it was Dusty. Real name was Theo. That was a nickname. But he was first dating Wilhelmina.
Mm-hmm.
And then Houdini was like, "What's up?" And so then he started dating her. And eventually they were like courting each other for maybe like a week.
Yeah.
Like anywhere between 1 and 3 weeks, and then were married. So
and then
Houdini,
stayed together for the rest of his life.
Right, yeah. So Houdini kicked his brother out so he can get the girl, and then kicked his brother out of the magic act so that his now wife could
they
be his
just
assistant.
Yeah, because like that's kind of how they originally met, was that she was assisting with their show, and then he was like... Then there was that little love triangle, and then he won out in the love triangle, which, I mean, this guy had to really step up to the plate and be a player to get what he wanted, because he was like 5'4", 5'5". He was remarkably short and stocky, and ladies...
It's not about the size of the Houdini. It's about the motion of the
magic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the magic he was doing was mostly card tricks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do some scarf shit. He also did some stuff with knots. Very like beginner level stuff.
Garlic
But-
knots and whatnot.
And whatnot.
And whatnots.
Knott's Berry Farm.
Knots very far, right? And
Get my knots.
get my knots. Oh, I fucking hate you guys. But that would later come up with his escapes. So a lot. It's funny because you think like the origins. How did he learn how to do this? But with Houdini, you can kind of see the progression of how he ended up eventually getting to be, I mean, really the greatest like escape artist. And I feel like the magic stuff kind of takes a back seat, and we think of him as a magician. And like you said, now because escaping and magic have become so connected, but it's really not all.
Because of like your David Blaine's and your Chris Angels and stuff, who
Right.
are like combined, who are obviously like heavily inspired by Houdini. And he also did start the whole like Magicians Academy thing or whatever. But yeah, he was mostly into the escape stuff. But I think it says here in my notes that his younger brother's name was Dash.
Dash. Okay, I kept
Yeah,
saying
replaced
Dusty. I knew it
Hyman,
was a
but
D.
not for long, because then eventually they met.
He
Wilhelmina
dashed him to the
Beatrice
curb.
Ronner.
Right, yeah, and then one video that I watched did say that you would think that Dash would be pretty bitter about the whole thing, but apparently Dash had his own fairly successful career, not Harry level, but he was like, they were good. They had a good relationship with the rest of their lives, as far as I know, and as far as what I've researched, it said. He and Bess joined a circus, and this is where he learned how to pick locks with his toes. And he learned techniques from strongmen, such as absorbing punches, which comes up later.
Come back to bite him in the ass.
It
right?
well, kind of. Not
Up for debate.
not really fault of his, though, which
Yeah.
we'll talk about that later. So he's learning things along the way that are going to come up. So then he starts performing more escape tricks. This is where it kind of starts to develop. He used his techniques with the needles and did the trick where you eat the needles and eat the thread, and you pull them all out and they're together.
Mm-hmm.
This is when he went to an asylum in Canada and saw a straitjacket and was like,
That's my shit.
I think
That's
I can
my
do
shit.
That, yeah.
That's my shit.
That's what that
Few
song's about.
times it's been around my back. But you won't capture me like that, because I ain't no straight jacket girl.
You had it.
I did
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
I
you
did
did
okay.
Old Gwen Houdini.
Yeah.
I did hear that he was able to dislocate his shoulder when he wanted to. Like, he learned how to manipulate his body. And I know one of the techniques for doing the straitjacket is to, before they like lock you in, is to like make yourself really big.
Yeah.
So that when they tighten it, then you can shrink back down. And a lot of times he would perform these stunts upside down.
And obviously, in order to make himself really big, he would get bricked up.
Get bricked up, yeah. So when you hang upside down, obviously your body like almost changes position completely, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to. Not that what he did wasn't difficult, but he made it easier on himself.
Because he was short and stocky, he would basically either puff himself up and he would change his posture so that he could get more slack once he was in the straitjacket or the ropes or whatever it was.
Exactly, yeah. And it's important to note, too, that for a long time, he and Bess were super fucking poor.
Yeah.
Like, they at one point just lived on rabbits. She was quoted as saying...
Like the characters from Us?
What? Yeah, just like that.
Just ate
She
rabbits?
just ate hella rabbits, yeah.
Damn.
She was quoted as saying she sold her virginity to Houdini for an orange, like commenting on how poor they were.
Damn.
So they did that. Yeah, I mean, they slumming it for a while. I mean, he didn't become famous for a minute. And
truly
like,
started from the bottom. Now they Houdini.
Yeah, I don't know where they are.
Yeah. Well, eventually they meet this Martin Beck character, this Martin Beck fellow. You heard about this guy? You seen this guy? A rising tycoon in the world of vaudeville theater, saw the Houdinis in a beer garden in St. Paul, Minnesota. Ignoring the rest of the act, Beck saw Houdini's handcuff escapes and challenged him the next day with his own cuffs, and Houdini escaped easily. A few days later, Beck, who was with the Orpheum Circuit, which dominated vaudeville in the West, cabled Houdini from Chicago. You can open Omaha March 26th. $60. Will see act probably make you proposition for all next season. Dude needs some sentence structure.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I think it was like a telegram. There's probably some stops in there.
Local people in St. Paul who saw this act said, "Oh, you betcha."
Before we get into the escape stuff, though, I want to say that while they were poor, they started doing seances, right? And this comes up significantly later for Houdini. This is kind of what the later part of his career was debunking these.
And hack frauds.
He started doing this, and one account I came across said that he and Bess posed as Bible salespeople and would go to houses so that they can go inside and like learn about these families that would then come to their shows, and then they can use that information kind of against them to make themselves look spiritual. But that being said, they were both pretty spiritual themselves, and so for them, being superstitious, the lying and like the deceitfulness didn't sit right with them. And they're like, we can't do that. That's wrong. We actually believe in this kind of stuff, and so we don't want to kind of like taint that.
Yeah. I always find this like a really, really fascinating and really interesting angle to take if you're in the magic world, is like, in order to be successful in the magic world, there has to be some level of, trickery and deceit in order to get the trick to work. But most magicians are not doing it unless you're trying to make a bunch of money off of somebody by like pretending you're psychic or something. Most people are not trying to take advantage of people, but because there is that whole like scammer side of the whole culture, it's cool to see these like Houdinis or like more modern James Randi, like the amazing James Randi. He became a huge debunker of like these spiritualists and these psychics and all this stuff, like your Uri Gellers and stuff, and did the whole like offering cash prizes if you could prove that you were psychic that nobody could ever prove. So it's like these guys understand the techniques so well that they're able to go in and go like, oh nope, you're just shaking the table with some levers or whatever, and I know because I've done the same kind of shit. Like I know how the trick works, so I'm able to debunk these people who are trying to take advantage of people, because they're like, this stuff is fun for entertainment, but we're not trying to deceive people beyond the scope of the trick that we're performing.
Yeah, but you go into that, know it's a trick. Some of these performances of these psychics or these spiritualists would be like, we're contacting your dead loved ones. Like that's not a trick. That's lying to them to kind of profit off of their.
Well, a lot of times they also put like a lot of stuff behind a paywall. It's like, oh, I can, if you give me a little more money, I could potentially learn more. That sort of shit. Or they're looking for like later connections. And stuff.
To me, it's honestly way more impressive if these people like Houdini or like more modern magicians go like, yeah, no, I'm not magic, but I'm so fucking good at the sleight of hand and the trickery or the escape stuff or like the things I do with my body that it looks like magic. Like but the people who would go out of their way, like, I don't want you to think that I'm actually, like Penn and Teller. They're just like, no, we don't believe in in like the spiritual magic mumbo jumbo, but we're really fucking good at tricking people into thinking that we are.
Yeah.
And because they're so good, people will sometimes, like we'll get to your Arthur Conan Doyle's, will be convinced that this person is magic even when they say that they're not. They're like, there's no way that you can't be magic with the cool shit that you do.
You're telling me you don't kill a clone of yourself every night?
Yeah.
You're telling me with that type of dope shit that you aren't actually a magician.
Yeah,
what
but
the fuck?
Eventually, when we get to the kind of handcuff shackles era of Houdini's career, he does
the kinky era.
He does kind
The
of
BDSM
become an
Houdini.
escape artist, right? And so he does start making a ton of money, and he's making like $45K a week in today's money,
Damn.
which is fucking wild, dude.
Yeah, and he's getting publicity because he's doing things like performing escapes from actual jails, like with the police there, baffling the police, going like, how did he do it? And public stunts where he's like going out to, the middle of a town square and hanging upside down from a building and doing like a straitjacket escape. And he found that was a much more successful way to get people's attention and really Houdini throughout his entire career was just like, I got to get that publicity. Like, that's how I'm going to get famous is by having people write about the crazy shit that I do, and the best way to do that is just go do it out in the middle of the street or at a jail or some public place where people are going to be like, oh shit, maybe I could do that too.
So funny because it's like what modern magicians do now. It's like the street magic concept. That's that's where David Blaine got his start. That's where Chris Angel got his start. Like,
yeah, I used to rent all those every like street magic DVD I could find at the library. I would that's how I found out about David Blaine and like Chris Angel and them, was renting their old street magic DVDs.
Well, yeah, and he wasn't much of a showman, so that was kind of something he learned along the way.
He wasn't Hugh Jackman after all.
He was not
greatest showman.
He was not the greatest showman, but eventually he became that person where he was like, I'm really selling it. He would perform the unlocking of the shackles and stuff behind a curtain, and people were like,
and he would purposefully take extra time so that people would think like, oh my god, he must be dead. Like, he must be, when he had his milk container like jug thing where he would get squeezed into like a milk jug thing, and sometimes they fill
a milk can.
A milk can, and a lot of time they would like tie him up or fill it with water or whatever and put it behind a curtain, and people would go, he's got to be dead, it's been like an hour. And in reality he would have escaped and been standing behind the curtain for because I guess like
he can hold his breath for 3 minutes though, like that's
which at that
awesome.
time before people were setting like 20-minute world records for holding breath, that was crazy impressive that you could hold your breath for that long. And that's as long as he needed to get out of all the shit that he was cuffed with, and then he would just stand outside of behind the curtain for 45 minutes and then come out and be like, oh god, geez guys, I've been underwater for an hour and boy are my arms tired.
But he so one thing that he would do,
quote from Houdini,
and I found this interesting, is somebody would bring him shackles, but here, get out of our handcuffs. Like, maybe your handcuffs are tricks. You have the keys to these, whatever. Here's my handcuffs. And he would tell them, let me study the key so I can see how the mechanism works. And they would give him the key. And while he was studying it, his assistant would go to their workshop or whatever, and they had a jar of keys. And they would find one that was very similar to that key. Mm-hmm. And then Houdini would give them like back the fake key, hold on to their real key, and then do the escape.
So he was just good enough with the sleight of hand to like get to sneak the key,
which I thought was hilarious. But again, like, I watch this miniseries and they do a lot of different shit, and I'm like, I wonder how much of that is true.
Imagine you're like pioneer cresting over the new millennia into the 20th century, and you're one of the very first few people who are into BDSM, and you go home with your wife and you cuff her to the bed after we go into a Houdini show, and
you can't get it.
You can't get it unlocked because you have just the wrong key.
And you drop your knees, you're like, Houdini!
And then you have a heart attack, and she has to Gerald's game her way out of the situation.
And that's what that movie's about. Houdini.
Holy shit.
Something that I think is really cool about these, like the people making the handcuffs for him to escape from, or like he would do a lot of escapes from like in breweries and like out of like wine barrels and stuff, and most of it would be like a partnership between him and the brewery or the handcuff manufacturer or the safe manufacturer, so that they would be also getting like product placement from what. So it was like he just was really business savvy. Like he knew like, okay, they're going to help me make this successful because they're also going to be getting name recognition for being a part of this because I'm such a big deal, like that I can, it's a very early form of like, the celebrity sponsorships that literally everything has now. Like everything has to have some celebrity who's like, I'm Jennifer Gardner for Capital One, Yeah. But back then it was like, I'm Houdini and I'm going to get out of these handcuffs and do a flip.
Right. And so some of the other escapes that he performed, we talked about the milk can, we talked about the straitjacket. He did start doing jumps off of bridges, and he would dive in shackled and then come out. I heard, again, like I don't know about that miniseries, but in the miniseries he jumps into frozen water, like they cut a hole out and he dives in and then can't find his way out. And I was like, this doesn't seem real. But I know for sure that he jumped off a bridge in Australia, and it was kind of like gross, muddy water. Mm-hmm. And when he popped up, there was two, and people were like, is this part of the trick? He dislodged a dead body that had been stuck in the mud.
Oh,
and
wow.
Came up with it, and he was like, yeah, that water wasn't the best.
That's fucking crazy.
That's gross.
I thought you were going to say it was a prestige situation. Like he had cloned himself.
Oh, you were supposed to be dead. Shit.
But really, I mean, I think the thing to keep in mind while you're talking about all this stuff is that, yes, there was obviously some sort of, special technique or trickery or something involved, but he's still doing crazy shit. Like, he's still doing really dangerous stunts when he does a lot of this stuff, like jumping off of bridges and being put into barrels, or they would put him like into a wooden box and chain it up and then dump it off of a pier, like into the water off of a boat, and he'd have to escape from it. And it's like, that he very likely, and a lot of the times did almost die in a lot of these situations where he'd get out and be like, yeah, that was pretty close.
And other magicians trying to imitate him would die.
Yeah.
Because they weren't as trained in those things, and they would try, like, I think someone did the milk can and died from it.
Yeah, I think there was one knockoff guy called HOUDINI.
That sounds right, yeah.
Yeah, there were a ton of knockoffs because he was so original and famous that, there were tons of knockoffs, and then it became part of his job to kind of like upstage the knockoffs and prove why what they were doing wasn't as good and well constructed. And so part of that too is like that eternal magician's artist game of trying to one up everybody else in the field, especially with more and more people joining and trying to do the same thing. He's like, well, now I got to get crazier and eventually get to like the Chinese water torture.
Right, yeah. So it was around this time that he kind of started his own magazine, and that was like for the conjurers. And it was around when he started that where he would kind of debunk other magicians or kind of crack down on other magicians. And this led to his kind of disillusionment with Robert Houdin, because he was like, oh, you're a stealer. Like, you steal people's tricks, and you're kind of a fraud.
Yeah.
And so he ended up attacking this guy that was once his idol, which is fucked up, I guess, but like it's sad, I guess. Yeah.
So there are parts of this, like the more I looked into it, this is where I feel like this is one of Houdini's kind of, I mean, obviously, it would be dumb to say that he was a perfect person, even though there's a lot of really cool stuff that he did here. And like, it seems like he did, treat the important people in his life well. But when it came to his competition, like once he got a big head about being famous, he just was pretty much like attacking because he had his own magazine and everything, and would write pieces for stuff. It was always just like attacking other people. Like, this person's not as good as me. This person's not as good as me. This person's not as good as me, including the guy that he got his name from. And most people who were close to Houdini were like, none of that stuff that Houdini said was true. He just,
oh, really?
Yeah, they were basically like, he was just making shit up because he wanted to discredit this guy, to be like, I'm better than him. And yeah, so I think he went a little bit overboard when it came to like writing think pieces about other magicians and stuff. And
it's going to come to bite him in the ass later. It might be part of the reason why he died.
Yeah.
But it was around kind of 1910 that the escapes kind of started to dwindle. Like, people weren't as interested as they were, so he thought of ways to up the ante. And that's when he became interested in aviation. So he was actually the first person to fly over Australia, which is wild.
Yeah, so I was looking into this, and he was flying like one of those little like Wright brothers like paper biplane things around, and so he would get flights that were like at the very most like maybe an hour in the air, but typically it was more like 2 minutes and then a crash and then 2 more minutes and a crash.
Again, could have died plenty of times for this because we're not talking, like you said, we're talking these old school paper planes.
Yeah.
Which is pretty wild. But yeah, he flew over Australia. He tried to get a movie career going. He made several movies between 1960 and 1923.
Some of these are on Tubi, by the way, if you guys want to check them out. I watched part of one of them. It was a silent film that came out around the time that like Nosferatu came out. So it's
weird.
Very old, but if you're into that kind of thing, it's cool to see Houdini in a movie. Like I, for some reason, was under the impression that he was from a time where like we only could see pictures of him, but I guess there is one audio recording of him that exists that's on a wax cylinder. I don't know if you can check it out on the internet. I'm sure it exists.
Yeah, I'm sure it's been digitized at some point.
Yeah, he did a few movies, but didn't have really a successful.
He tried to start his own production company and made these movies, but they were all flops by all accounts.
It kind of reminds me of like when Elvis was trying to get into movies, and they would just always end up revolving around like, how can we find an excuse to have them do the thing they're already famous for instead of letting them act as a character in a movie. It's like, how can we incorporate Houdini tricks and escapes into this movie, or how can we incorporate Elvis songs and performances into this movie? Like a very similar thing.
Right, it's like Beyonce in Goldmember. Like she was in that movie to sing.
Yeah.
Like, let her act if you want to get an actor. You know what I mean? But what was I going to say? His relationship with his wife, like you said, lasted for a long time. Some accounts say that they were extremely loyal to each other. I did hear one account that said he did have one affair, and it was with Jack London's wife.
Really?
Of all people, yeah. I was like, that's crazy. It's weird. And I always think of these people in different eras, like doing their own thing. But it's crazy to me, like they know each other. Like he knew Jack London and he knew Conan Doyle, and it's like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, imagine all the people that Owen Wilson would have been able to meet if he had Midnight in Paris into this time period in the United States.
And in the show and another video that I watched, there was an account of Bess sitting on the lap of some man, and from Houdini's perspective, it looked like they were kissing, but she said that they weren't, and she was apparently doing it intentionally to make him jealous, and he was like full of rage.
Yeah, they seemed like they had that kind of relationship where it was a little bit like
a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll.
Well, yeah.
But, so then he became like a mythbuster, right?
Yeah. So
he grew out a walrus mustache.
He basically wore out like all of the fame that he could get into the United States. He went to Europe for a little while in the late 1800s to early 1900s, conquered Europe with a bunch of handcuff tricks and stuff. There's one instance that I mentioned to you guys that I thought was super badass where he was doing I believe it was it was a handcuff escape. It was one of those like custom built sets of handcuffs. He took like forever. It was like almost an hour of him trying to get out of it. And at one point he asked if they could come up and take the handcuffs off so that he could take his jacket off. And they were like, no, because if we take the handcuffs off, you'll see how the lock works and you'll be able to figure out how to pick it or whatever. So he was like, okay. And just with his mouth, like took out a penknife out of his pocket and cut his own jacket off of his body. So he continued doing the escape. And then at one point, Bess came up and like gave him a kiss. And everybody was convinced that she had gave him the key like through their kiss. Mm-hmm. But the key was like 5 inches long. And so like the leading theory was that it had been like snuck in a glass of water to him at some point. So everybody was always trying to figure out like how they could get the key to him so that he could figure it out. And most of the time people couldn't figure it out. And
he's just really good at picking locks. Like he studied it for a long time.
Yeah, and it also made me wonder like locks were obviously a lot different back then. So like I wonder if it was just a lot, because it was saying in what I was reading that a lot of the time it was just like applying the right type of force to a lock could get it to pop open. So he knew like where to apply pressure to get a lock.
I mean, even still some locks now are that way. Like some like master locks and stuff. If you get the right amount of pressure applied inside of them, it'll just break.
You breaking a lot of locks?
That's pretty funny. So yeah, like I said, his later part of his career became about debunking people that were spiritualists. And one of the people that he went after was Mina Cramden, better known as Marjorie. And she was heavily backed by Arthur Conan Doyle. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yeah, put some respect on it.
a spirit. This one actually is a sir. But he's a big spiritualist, which is crazy to me. I think we talked a little bit about it because he created Sherlock Holmes, if you don't know.
And Sherlock Holmes' most famous thing is the Occam's razor. Like,
yeah,
the simplest solution is usually the right one or whatever. Like,
and like evidence, like here's the proof to support exactly what I'm saying.
Very like scientific theory, kind of like
right.
Yeah, and then reality, he was like, so deep into the spiritualist stuff, and he was really, really good friends with Houdini up until Houdini started doing this myth busting thing,
especially with Marjorie specifically. Like that was really the kind of straw that broke the camel's back.
So then Doyle like flipped completely and went on this whole like smear campaign type deal against Houdini, where he was saying like that Houdini was some sort of like evil sorcerer who was using his more powerful magical abilities to fuck up the magical abilities of other psychics and stuff, when the simpler solution is just there are frauds, and he's pointing that out through logical stuff. I think it's very interesting, the difference between Arthur Conan Doyle and Sherlock Holmes. Yeah, like the work that he created.
Polar opposites almost, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of around this time that it was believed by some that he became a secret agent for World War I.
Secret agent, man.
Before World War I, before the outbreak of the war from Germany. But there's not really evidence to support this. I guess the guy that he allegedly worked under was like retired, but in secret was forming MI5.
Oh.
And so some people are like, maybe Houdini was kind of MI5, and the first person that he recruited for MI5 was the inspiration for James Bond. And so there's not really a ton of evidence to support that Houdini did it. And in the miniseries with Adrian Brody, they show him doing it. Mm-hmm. And so he would because he was from Budapest, he spoke German, he knew the language, so they would have him go places to perform certain feats, and then he would be able to hear conversations that were happening, and people thought he was American because he claimed to be American himself. He didn't really claim his...
Yeah, he loved the country so much that he always claimed that like Wisconsin was like his hometown.
And that's not, it's just not true. So, there's different accounts of that, and they show him like, well, I'm hidden in here, so I couldn't have possibly been in there to steal these documents. I don't think any of that's true. I think more likely he wasn't.
I feel like Houdini would be the worst person to have as a spy, because people would be immediately suspicious of him wherever he went. They'd be like, this guy's up to some shit.
Right, and like you mentioned, he did kind of have this big head, and it was like, anything I'm doing, I'm telling everybody about it. I'm a showman now, and I need everybody to know. So if he was a spy, I think he would have a hard time keeping his mouth shut.
Yeah, he would just write. Yeah, he would write an article about how great a spy he was.
Also, is very similar to James Bond in that way, where like James Bond never like he's always given like, oh, use this code name, use these disguises or whatever, and he's like, oh, I'm James Bond, I'm here. Like he's never like he's always hide in plain sight kind of person.
Pretty much, yeah. So he, like I said, went after Mina, and some believe that is how he died, that he was poisoned by the spiritualists. So we don't know for sure how he died. One of the theories is that he was punched. So he would take these punches throughout a lot of his career where he can absorb them, because like Anthony mentioned, he was very athletic. He was very physically fit, and he knew how to contract his muscles in a way that he could absorb the punches. One theory is that he was at a party and a college student was like, hey, you can absorb punches, right? And Houdini was like, yeah. And the guy just started punching him without him like getting ready for it.
Well, and it kind of like, from what I read, the quote from the guy was like, do you believe in like the power of the Lord or something like that? So like it seems like it was kind of that anger was stemming from the whole like debunking of the spiritualist and the religious like kind of thing that Houdini was all going against. And so the person was like, oh, do you like believe in the power of God or whatever? Like, do you think that God can really give you the power to like withstand these punches? And Houdini had just recently like broken his ankle or broken his leg during a performance, so he was like sitting back in a chair, so obviously very unprepared for this kind of thing. And the guy just started wailing on him with a bunch of punches until Houdini was like, stop, like I'm in a lot of pain. And then it was just like, oh, but I'm gonna go ahead and just perform the next day in Detroit, unawares of the fact that he had an appendicitis issue.
He did, yeah, and that's kind of where the like skepticism comes from, because that's not really how appendicitis works. Yeah. And we know that now. theory is that he might have had problems with his appendix, and then this made it worse, and that's what killed him like a week later.
I also heard, and to me this made kind of sense, is that he had it was harder for him to tell that something was wrong with his appendix because of how much pain he was in from the punches. So because he was so sore from all of that, he wasn't able to tell that the appendix was, and I know because I've had been tested for appendicitis when I've had like stomach issues, and I know it's like an ache in your back. So it may be because of maybe his ribs were bruised or something, and so it was hard for him to tell that he had really severe appendicitis.
Also had pinched a nerve during one of his escapes, and so he lived in pain. So he was in constant pain almost his whole life.
Yeah, and the fact that he it's insane that he was still as
charismatic.
Yeah, and still performed. Like after these punches, he did his show in Detroit. He did it for
like a week, right?
Yeah. And then he had his appendix removed on October 25th, but because he had waited so long,
convinced him to go to the doctor.
Yeah, and then eventually he passed away in Detroit on Halloween.
Right. So another theory is that Marjorie, the woman that he was heavily trying to debunk, he actually never was able to, but other people were later on.
Marjorie Stewart
Baxter. Husband obviously hated him, but was a doctor who specifically specialized in appendix removal. Was it appendectomies?
Yeah.
So some people believe that he was poisoned by them, and that's what killed him. And at the time, to kind of back this theory, Bess also was poisoned. Like she had food poisoning to some degree. So while he was in the hospital, she was also in the hospital. For obviously not to that degree, but she had some sort of food poisoning. And so that's one of the theories. So we're actually not really sure how Houdini died. I guess in 2008 there was a big campaign to exhume his body and try to figure it out, but I don't think it went anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, what could they figure out at this point?
Yeah.
It'd be limited information.
How crazy would that be if they exhumed him though, and he
was Jack the Ripper,
and he was Jack the Ripper?
Holy shit!
That would be insane. But yeah, post Houdini's death, Bess continued to have yearly Halloween seances, which is still a tradition. Is the Houdini Halloween seance? Even though after a decade of doing these seances, Bess finally gave up on doing them because they had an agreement that they would have a code phrase or a code word that was very personal to the two of them. And
Right, so they weren't skeptics trying to say spiritualism doesn't exist. They were trying to stop people from taking advantage of others. Right, yeah.
Yeah, but they were always kind of open to the idea of if it does exist, very similar to the Midnight Club thing.
Totally.
Yeah, I'll come back with a message. And the message was Rosabelle.
Rosabelle, yeah.
Yeah, Rosabelle, answer, tell, pray, answer, look, tell, answer, tell. So Rosabelle was their favorite song together. And
so cute.
So yeah, after 10 years of trying this, she never got any response. So her quote, which I really loved, was after the 10 years, she decided to stop the seance, and she said, 10 years is long enough to wait for any man. and then she moved on from there.
She was a quipster, huh?
Yeah.
I also heard that the cemetery kind of stopped letting people go there because they were starting to vandalize his tomb or whatever.
Yeah, I think his headstone at one point got destroyed, so
people are fucking terrible.
But yeah, so there's still the yearly Halloween seance. Several different groups do it, but nobody's, as far as I know, had any experiences with Houdini that can
brought
be
back the Dini
from the afterlife. But yeah, I had a few extraneous tidbits that I wasn't sure exactly where to fit these things into the general biography. I do have in here that, he may have worked as a spy for the British Secret Service, but probably not. One theory is that Houdini was probably sterile, which is why he didn't have any kids, because he was often a volunteer for his physician brother's X-ray experiments. Obviously, this was a time where they probably didn't know that X-rays could fry your nuts and make you not be able to have kids. There is also a thing here. I'm not sure 100% how accurate this is, but it says that Houdini did teach U.S. soldiers how to escape capture during World War I.
I did hear that too. Yeah, so he wrote several books, including how to escape from these type of knots and how to do these knots and how to perform some of these. And
how to escape knots and alienate people.
And he did want to give back because, like you mentioned earlier, he did love the U.S. And so for a while, he did kind of tour circuits. And yeah, like you said, I mean, that's what I heard too. It was that he was teaching them, okay, if you ever get captured, here's how you can escape.
That's super cool. This is a fact that I knew but had completely forgotten about, and is also one of the many potential urban legends about Houdini. But there's a story, I think, told by Buster Keaton himself that Houdini is the person who gave Buster Keaton his nickname, because his name was Joseph Keaton, and Buster was his nickname because when he was a kid, he would like zoom around the house and he would always like fall down the stairs and bang his head against stuff and then just get up and keep running. And I guess like Houdini was a family friend and was there at one point and just started calling him Buster because he was always busting his head into stuff.
Oh my god!
And
that's
so yeah,
cool.
Buster, like the nickname supposedly came from Houdini. That's like the leading story. So, and I love Buster Keaton. So another, vaudeville, very physical performer who made a huge career out of that. And then I've joked about this so much since I found out about it, but the biggest tidbit about Houdini that I found out.
I know what a bit is, but what's a tid?
That's a good question. You stumped me.
Titty bitty.
I'll have to do an episode on it.
No, we won't.
So toward the end of his life, there is some speculation that Houdini may have considered, if not gone through with, an experimental... I'm not joking about this.
I didn't
this
hear
is a real
about any
thing.
of this in my research.
So I looked into it, and it's because it's one of a million Houdini may have done this thing, probably not, but it was common at the time for doctors to come up with these weird procedures that involve parts of animals, because at the time medicine wasn't as well understood, and there was this idea that you could get the essence of an animal by like taking parts of its body.
Essence.
Yeah, and so Houdini may or may not have had part of a chimp's testicles sewn onto his own.
So like the scrotum?
Scrotal sac.
So the chimp scrotum?
So the chimp's actual nut would then be like sewn onto his scrotum, and that was supposed to give him some sort of enhanced chimp virility and chimp strength and all that stuff. And while most people believe that he never actually went through with the procedure, it is a procedure that was written about at the time and was like an experimental thing that some people were doing because people were fucking just as crazy then as they are now, just with different things.
Yeah, behind the curtain, this tidbit he tried to use on me. When I said that I wasn't feeling well and that we were going to have to postpone recording, he was like, you should have sewn those chimp nuts to your scrotum.
I mean, honestly, I think more people need to be more open-minded to the sewing chimp nuts to your nuts.
Maybe we'll start ripping each other's limbs off. Is that what you want?
Yeah. I think chimps are fucking scary, and I don't want any part of them near my nutsack. Thank you very much.
Gordy's home, you know what I'm saying?
Not in my house.
But that's it for me. I mean, that's all I want to do. And I mean, I know this is a little bit outside of our wheelhouse, but I love magic. I think all of us do to some extent. And I believe in magic. And
Houdini is such an icon at this point that, I mean, it's. I tried my best in doing this research, and it sounds like you did too, to kind of figure out like, hey, what are the things that we know for sure about him, and then what's the stuff? Because I think a lot of people, when they're talking about Houdini, they'll just tell like whatever the the chimp nut story, or like whatever the most interesting thing is, or when at the time he jumped off a bridge or whatever.
Yeah, we barely touched on the Chinese water chamber.
Yeah, which is like the iconic Houdini trick now. Like, I think that's what the Adrian Brody, like all the Adrian Brody like promotion stuff for that show was like him getting all chained up and ready to do the upside down water thing.
So a lot of people think that's how he died, but that's not the case. Yeah, because it's a big tank, probably like this big, maybe no bigger, but he hung from his ankles and was dunked in water and had to escape. And you could see him the whole time, so I think that was kind of one of the reasons why it was so popular.
Do you think people having like a Mandela effect because of like...
Well, it was written like right after he died, people started writing fake things about how he died, because since he was such a mythical figure, even at that point, people were like, there's no way that he died from appendicitis. Like, I know, right? They're like, he had to have died in some crazy stunt.
It does, yeah. And I think part of the reason too is that Tony Curtis movie. So that was a cool connection that we found to tying in last week's Halloween episode, is that the parents of Jamie Lee Curtis starred in a movie about Houdini. So Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh were in a Houdini movie in 1953, I think.
Yeah, I wanted to check it out, but like the more that I looked into it, the more people were saying like it's fun but very inaccurate to Houdini's actual life, and I wanted to kind of stay away from stuff that would confuse me while trying to like give the actual information about Houdini's life. But now I'll probably check it out. But yeah, I think they met on that movie, because in the article I was reading about it, it was saying that like they got along so well that obviously they ended up getting married and having kids, but they worked
then had
in
a very
several films
tumultuous
after that,
marriage.
but
Oh, really?
Yeah.
yeah. And then Tony Curtis was married like 7 times and then removed all of his kids from his will like right before he died.
Jesus.
Yeah. Anywho.
Anyway, yeah, that's a different episode.
Something that does surprise me, though, is, everybody knows the name Houdini. Like, even if it comes down to just, like, it's become part of the vernacular of, like, if somebody gets out of a tight situation, it's like pulling a Houdini. Or, it's Houdinized is, like, an actual thing I read was, like, a vocabulary term for a long time. It's like, if you've Houdinized something, it's like you've gotten out of, some crazy situation.
Isn't like brand of automatic wine bottle openers that are named Houdini?
Yeah.
You just and it goes.
There was even a joke in the new episode of Chucky. It's not a spoiler, but the roommate, the kleptomaniac roommate girl, is talking about like a guinea pig or a hamster that she had at one point that like disappeared, and its name was Houdini.
Oh, there you go.
Because it would like escape its cage.
How funny.
But the fact that he's such an icon, it doesn't feel like there's really been that much media made about him. Like, in terms, like, there hasn't been like a really quality documentary. Like, I'm waiting for like that really definitive documentary about Houdini to come out. There was the Adrian Brody show, but I know that people didn't love that because people said the script wasn't great, but that the performance of Adrian Brody was great, and
he's good,
it looks good,
and I was into it. But it seems the more that I researched it, it seems like it's pretty inaccurate. Like, it only showed him having a brother.
Yeah.
But apparently he had 6 siblings. It showed that his relationship with his father was very torn, but I've heard conflicting accounts about that.
And then I could see why people would go the Tony Curtis, Janet Leigh route of making it a love story, because that obviously is the core of Houdini's, adult life is both his love for his mom, who he like at one point bought and he bought like a dress that was supposed to have belonged to like Queen Victoria for her.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he took care of his mom.
Yeah, and
as you should.
So it makes sense that would all be the center. But yeah, I want to see like a really well done biopic about Houdini. That's more like, because to me his life is fascinating enough if you go by the facts. But every interpretation seems to want to like get really crazy and deviate far from the source.
I mean, show him as a kid, show him struggle, show him trying to do magic, and people have been like, "Yeah, who gives a shit?" And then show him staple some nuts onto his nuts. Exactly, show him the nuts to nuts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just want to see those nuts to nuts. Watch what's going to happen. Like what usually happens with this show is we're going to say, oh man, why doesn't this exist? And then in like a month or a couple months, we're going to find out that there's been a Houdini show for Netflix. And we're getting like
starring Tom Holland.
Who would you cast as Houdini besides Adrian? Like if you were picking your Houdini, somebody to play him, it's got to be somebody short and Daniel Radcliffe. Boom. Short, stocky,
has the kind of charm.
Has the certain je ne sais quoi.
He does have the I don't know what.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question. I'd have to really think about it.
Yeah. If you're listening or watching, give us your fan cast for Houdini. Give us who should play Houdini, who should play Bess, who should play Dame Arthur Conan Doyle.
Who should play the Chimp Nuts?
Yeah.
Also, thank you so much for providing all of this lovely Houdini knowledge to me.
Yeah, what do you think about that? You care? You don't care? You think people are going to care?
I think that people will care. I think that it was very entertaining for me to get to be kind of a bystander and
fly on the wall
and make my little zingers every once in a while.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for
ruining.
Thanks for jumping on our backs, man.
Yeah, I prepared for this presentation for like a week and a half at this point, and your interruptions weren't appreciated, John.
Hey, I'm just here trying to skate by and get an A, brother.
Yeah, but I mean, we obviously didn't cover every little detail there is to know about Houdini, but I didn't want to just be reading the Wikipedia article.
And I pulled from several different sources too. Good Job Brain had some information. I watched a biography on YouTube. I listened to another podcast called Stuff You Missed in History Class. I had a lot of good information about it too. And then, I watched that part of that miniseries.
I mean, I just went straight to the source. I got a Ouija board and I was like, Houdini, give me the
Ouija
deets.
board.
Your hands are freezing. Harry Dunn Houdini.
Yeah.
You're telling me you had an extra set of keys this entire time?
All right, that's going to wrap it up for our episode this week. We appreciate you listening and checking that out. Next week, we are going to continue Nonfiction November, not No Nut November, like I said at the beginning of the show. And we're going to talk about, you guys want to do Vlad?
We could do Vlad. We could do the Warrens. I know.
I've been itching to talk about the Warrens for so long.
I'm ready to spit hot fire
All
about
right,
the Warrens.
let's do it. We're going to do the Warrens then. We're going to dive into the life and times of Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Charlatans.
Yeah, so I'm nervous though, because didn't you tell us at one point that if people hate on the Warrens, that there's like a whole community you're like, don't say bad stuff about the Warrens.
We're not going to hate. We're going to report the facts.
Well, I mean, we have the benefit of nobody listening to our podcast, so we'll escape all of the backlash. Like, I'm sure if we had a huge audience, like there's probably like a single factual inaccuracy about this Houdini episode that people would completely eviscerate us over. It wasn't a chimp nut; it was a orangutan nut.
It was Maurice.
But yeah, we're talking about Ed and Lorraine Warren. If you want to get completely useless information about them, go watch the Conjuring movies that have literally nothing to do with anything they ever did. But or watch the Amityville Horror. But we'll be talking about them. We'll break it down. The Annabelles, the Perrone family, the Amityville Horror, the other spooky shit they did.
Other spooky shit they did. Yeah, so let us know what you think about this Houdini one. You can leave a comment if you're on YouTube, or you can shoot us a message over on Instagram, or you can leave us a review over on whatever podcast platform you are listening on.
Yes, The Devil Made Me Donuts.
The Devil Made Me Donuts. Yeah, we have that episode if you're interested. And next week we are going to dive into the real, well, what we can discern, I guess, of
the real.
Anyway, we hope this episode was magical for you. I have been Tone.
I've been John.
And I've been the handcuff king himself, ladies. Just kidding.
The pre-internet darling.
No, just the internet darling.
We'll see you next time. Thanks again.
Keep it creepy.